D. Williams on kickoff return, you made that change last week. What'd you see and what'd you make that move?
Yeah, no, we just want to give a younger player in this league who's shown a skill set to do it an opportunity. He definitely has the right skill set to do it. He has a lot of juice, speed, elusiveness, and he's done a nice job in the brief time that he's been here. So, we'll continue to try and give him some opportunities to be able to take that.
What happened on the two big returns allowed? One kickoff, one punt, I think.
Yeah. So let's start with the punt. Number one, miss hit on the punt. We still got to be able to cover that and retrace. And it just came down to a ton of missed tackles. We had 5 missed tackles on that. So we got to do a better job as a group. I got to do a better job as a coach in terms of tackling fundamentals, which is going to be a huge point of emphasis this week. But ultimately, wherever the ball goes, we got to have the right spacing distribution and be able to bring that guy down. On the kickoff, one thing that we got to do a better job of is seeing the ball being caught, not only for the get-off portion of it with the new rule, but also seeing where the ball is getting kicked. That affects where you're trying to track the ball and everything. But ultimately, when it comes down to this new kickoff rule, we got to be able to get off blocks. That's strike, disengage, work on edges, use our handwork, and then ultimately you want population around the ball. So we're going to do a better job of that this week in terms of emphasizing the tools it takes to get off blocks.
Spent all offseason talking about this new rule and didn't know it was going to happen. Now we're 14 weeks in. What are the biggest changes or differences you've recognized from it?
Yeah, I think one of them, there's always been a thought of how much of the old return scheme could you do, and I think that's across the league. I think everybody started somewhat vanilla in terms of what teams were asking their returners to do and group to block for. But you're starting to see more old schemes come back and, understanding that the flavor of what they had in the past couple of years by team is starting to show up in little nuances. So you're starting to see the return game evolve a little bit more.
How much are you seeing more returns? It's always the thing, the weather and the late in the season. Are you seeing more returns?
Yeah, it certainly feels like there's more returns, because we obviously, watch our stuff and feel our stuff, but we also look across the league and it feels like there's more returns weekly, and there's more variety, and you're starting to see certain situations in which, you're starting to see teams cover more kicks, obviously because of the weather, but just more teams that hadn't been covering kicks cover kicks in general.
Is there a surprise element to that too? You mentioned the weather, obviously, but just the idea of when you've shown for 14 weeks that trend of what everybody's booming it through the end zone, you think there are teams that are now looking at it going, you know what, maybe we can sneak one in there a little bit.
Yeah.
Take advantage of maybe a coverage team that's just kind of sitting back, not necessarily looking to take one.
From our perspective, we've always whether you tell a person hit a touchback or not, they might not be able to do it. They might get under a ball, they might toe it, it might be a miss hit. But if it lands in the landing zone, you got to be able to return it, you got to be able to cover it. So I think those are things that we've always, spoke to our guys about being ready regardless of what we're asking our kicker to do. And I think you look across the league, it certainly seems that coaches are telling their players the same thing, to always be ready. Because the one thing that you do see, regardless of how low the hang is, you're going to know whether you're returning it or not. Because if that ball looks like it's in the field of play, you have that 2-second time where you're tracking the ball, you're seeing it, you're like, okay, it's going to be in play, be ready to return it. I don't think anybody ever really goes out there saying this ball's out the back. There's just no way to guarantee that.
Do you find it a little funny that this late in the season, when the ball does land in the landing zone and it's not returned, offenses are walking on the field saying, why are we starting on the 20?
Yeah, it probably, there was a little bit of, growing pains in terms of understanding the rule from everybody kind of outside of special teams, like why is that placed on the 20? Why is that placed on the 30? Or why is it placed on the 40? So I think there is a little bit of shock. Why is that my drive start average on this return? So there is an element of surprise. I think that happened a little bit earlier in the season in terms of that, but I think it's revealed itself of what the what the rules are in terms of that.
When Graham did that Sunday, right? So what's the risk there of, because you're really close to the sideline also, so that could swing the ball at the 40.
Yeah, there's certainly risk with it, and it depends how aggressive you want to get with those liners. It's something we certainly work on a ton, and a returner still has to be able to track and field it. The returner definitely has the ability still to field those. Those become a little bit harder just because the time to get under the ball is a little bit more narrow. It's certainly something, you want to try and take an advantage. And then just the consistency of being able to hit that ball isn't as high as you would think, because you're trying to hit the ball a certain way that may result in a true miss hit that doesn't reach the landing zone, or a true miss hit that ends up going OB. So there's a fine line, but if you can sneak 10 yards on one of those kicks, I think it's a huge advantage.
With the Atlanta having the indoor stadium, is it just booming through the end zone?
No, I mean, they've had the ability to return kicks and cover kicks, and obviously being indoors, the weather's not a factor. So I don't think we can go into this game thinking that we could do either or. We have to be ready to cover kicks. We have to be ready to return kicks, and Keese is going to have those guys do the same thing.
Obviously, with the returner, I mean, throughout the off season, the summer, you were going through different guys. I mean, McKenzie and Gunner, and then Amir comes in early in the year. What has he brought to that position for you guys? I mean, it seems like he, brings a little flair.
Yeah.
But just in terms of, do you feel like you found something here with a returner that's been able to, be there for you this year?
Yeah, I think Amir has done one heck of a job the time he set foot in this building. He's truly treated it like this is everything to him. He does have good energy, so it does elevate everybody around him. He's one of those energy givers that when you're around him, you hear him talk, you see the juice of practice. He has that type of impact on his teammates, and I know his teammates want to block for him, knowing that he has the ability to spring one, whether it be on punt return or kickoff return. So, I mean, he's definitely done a nice job for us, and he's a guy that's proven that he could do this in this league at a high level for a long time. So I expect Amir to have a good long career.